Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Swandracharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Grantaraj Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Shri Shri Nitai Gora Hare Ki Jai. Shri Shri Nitai Sachi Sutta Ki Jai. Shri Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Go Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ke. Sri Nityananda Prabhu ke. Sri Shri Pancha Tattva ke. Srila Prabhupada ke. Go Premanande. More Premanande. Haribol. Devotees. It's almost the end of the year. Wait till you get to this age, then it seems like it was yesterday almost. It was the end of the previous year. But anyway, I thought that seeing it's the end of the year, there's a practice in the materialistic society of making, what do they call them? New Year's resolutions. New Year's resolutions, that's right. And, I mean, it can be a good idea, actually. But at least I would suggest that we can look back and consider what happened in our lives in Krishna consciousness and in the last year, what happened, what you might have liked to have happened, but it didn't happen, or perhaps not as much as you wanted, and, just consider things, really consider things, and in the sense or from the perspective that, all right, we're going into another year, and let's see about, let's see what we might like to do. And if not, you could make a resolution, but you could also just pray to the Lord that, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that. And I think that I think it would bear fruit. Yeah, I think it's a good idea to consider the previous year and consider where we're trying to go from here. So I thought in that regard, I could just run through a few stories of Lord Chaitanya, pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, which you might or might not be more familiar with than sort of average. And they give some ideas, some inspirations, I think. So here's one. You may have heard of this a bit, but you might not be so familiar with it. Anyway, first of all, though, Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Yes, well, one story, it's very nice. You may or may not be so familiar with it, is that Lord Chaitanya was meeting with a group of householders, like sincere householder devotees. And someone invited Lord Chaitanya, would you please be kind enough to come and visit my house and take prasad? Would you be kind enough to accept prasadam at my house, in my house, from me? And Lord Chaitanya became not sort of heavy, but he became, a little kind of pointed in his consciousness. And he said, from today on, I will only take prasadam in the house of a lakpati. Lakpati. Lakh, in the context, means what you'd expect. The general understanding would be 100,000 rupees. And pati, basically, it means master of, or someone who has 100,000 rupees. And in those days, that was really a considerable amount of Lakshmi. 500 years ago, my Lord, you're talking about, I would say, many millions, many millions of even dollars, what to speak of our funky old rands, which don't really count much these days. Yes. And the devotees, because they understood it in that way, they took it in that way, they were taken aback, as we said, they were very sincere devotees. And actually all of them had this desire in their hearts, which one of them had expressed. And in a very devotional way, they wanted to offer some service and some nice prasadam cooked in a real mood of devotion from their hearts. Offer it as a service to Lord Chaitanya. But Lord Chaitanya, now in this kind of little strong mood, said, I will not accept prasadam from anyone who is not a lakpati. So it means effectively it means, I will not accept prasadam from anyone who is not a multi-millionaire. Something, multi-millionaire. Sure, yeah. I remember when I first went to India, actually in 1976, $1 was worth 8 rupees. And that was just, not even, we'll say 40 years ago or something along those lines. So 500 years ago. So yes, these devotees were taken aback and bewildered because they thought, how could our Lord have an attitude like this, that just on the basis of money, he makes a decision of whether he wants to associate with someone or accept prasadam from someone or not, if they're not up to it financially. And they couldn't imagine, but they couldn't understand, but they couldn't imagine. How could our Lord feel like that? But then Lord Chaitanya clarified, and he said, the thing is, my point is, I will not accept prasadam from someone who is not chanting 100,000 names of the Lord every day. Means, more or less means 64 rounds a day. He explained that. And sure, the devotees were amazed, but they appreciated. And they were not all doing that. They were all chanting regularly, but not 64 rounds. I don't think many of our devotees just generally, what to speak of sitting in the Sri Sri Nitai Gaura Hari temple room this evening, are chanting 64 rounds. Are you chanting 64 rounds? Me neither. Yeah. Yes. It's not a small thing to do 64 rounds a day. Every now and then, if you have a special japa occasion of some sort, then that may be. But every day, plus do a full day of service, that's something. I mean, I've done on a few, however many occasions, 64 rounds in a day. But at least for me, once I finished the 64, it was like, whew, wow. And a full day of service. I wasn't really thinking of doing that. So these devotees, they got the idea. They understood the point that through chanting like that, a devotee's heart really becomes cleansed and purified, and their devotional mood really increases, And of course, that's all reflected. It's reflected in their lives in so many ways, but it's also reflected in their prasadam. Yes. So this whole gathering of Brahmin devotees, very nice gentlemen, gentle devotees, they all resolved, right, from this day on, we will chant 100,000 of names, 100,000 names, or basically around 64 rounds. Yes, and they really got into it. So, an interesting point, just one interesting point, is that Srila Prabhupada, he mentions this. He doesn't go through the story in detail. I mean, there's not so much detail to it, but Prabhupada makes the point that was all very well back in those days. Laksheshvara, that's the term, not Lakpati. Laksheshvara. Prabhupada makes the point that in principle, Prabhupada makes the point that don't start thinking that you have to chant 100,000 rounds a day. Names a day. But because they're like dispensations for people like us who are, we're more from Kali Yuga backgrounds. And Prabhupada makes the point that actually for devotees, people like us, aspiring devotees, at least we should do 16 rounds. At least we should do 16 rounds. But really try and do them without offenses and with attention. We should really try and do like that. And Lord Chaitanya will accept it, because Lord Chaitanya, what he says here, let me just tell you what he says. He says, do you know who is a Laksheshwara? He's someone who daily chants 100,000 holy names. The Lord is served in the house of only one who daily chants 100,000 names. The Lord accepts items like foodstuffs from only such a person. For one who does not chant 100,000 names, the Lord does not award the good fortune of his service by accepting that devotee's offering. All devotees of the Lord must daily chant 100,000 names, otherwise they will become attached to varieties of material enjoyment and will be unable to serve the Lord. So that's what Lord Chaitanya says here. This is from Chaitanya Bhagavat, actually. But like I said, Srila Prabhupada makes that comment of chanting 16 rounds, but not just sort of mumbling and bumbling. Do you know what I mean? Have you ever mumbled and bumbled a round or 2 or 16 or something? I suspect some of us have. Yeah. But it means with seriousness, sitting down, or you can walk up and down, but with seriousness, really focusing. Then there are videos, of course, there are many photos of Srila Prabhupada, but there are a number of videos and photos where you see Srila Prabhupada sitting there with his hand in his bead bag. And oftentimes he was like that he'd be speaking to someone or doing something, and then that exchange or whatever would finish, and he'd just put his hand in his bead bag and very quietly start chanting. It was like a sort of, you could say, default situation, the whatever business is over, hand goes into the bead bag. And then you chant on the beads. So anyway, that's something you can think about. Please do think about it, because it really, it's important. We should really try and chant very attentively. Then the possibility exists that some of us might have committed some offenses in the past. I won't ask if any of you have, because maybe none of you have, but sometimes it happens. And in a little while, I'll read a few things or say a few things about forgiveness, because I think we've all been offended, and you know what the mind is like. If you've got a mind like mine, then, if someone does something, like a bit aggressive or unpleasant, then the tendency is to sort of a similar mood develops. So forgiveness, and at this time at the end of the year, when we're at least we have the opportunity of summing up the year and looking forward to the next year like that, it's a good idea to consider, is there anyone I should forgive for things which may have upset me? There's a really nice story, actually it appears in Bhakti Ratnakara, of the unknowing Srila Rupa Goswami and the unknowing offense. And let me go through it with yourselves here. It involves Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatana Goswami. And it's really quite an amazing story that Srila Rupa Goswami was sitting in Vrindavan somewhere. And when he would chant japa, he was chanting japa. When he would chant japa, he would usually enter into the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Usually, or not just usually actually, but always, every time. He would just enter the pastimes and enter into different exchanges directly with the divine couple. So this one day he was chanting, and he entered into the pastimes, or a pastime, in which Srimati Radharani was being decorated for meeting with Krishna shortly. So she was being decorated, but secretly. She didn't want Krishna to see until, she really had been prepared and in a suitable way. So there she was with the other gopis around, and they're doing different things. And who should come from behind? Take a guess. But Krishna. And he sneaked up from behind. And the gopis saw, of course they saw, but Radharani is looking forward, he's coming from behind. So he told them, he went like this, just act like normal. So they continued just like normal. And he took over, plaiting the hair, Radharani's hair, from behind. Yeah. And he took over. There was one gopi who was already doing it, but he took over. And Radharani felt, because when she's touched by Krishna or she touches Krishna, there's amazing sensation. She felt that, but she thought, no, it can't be Krishna because he's not here. Because, we're hiding in some secret place. So anyway, now Krishna is plaiting her hair very nicely. And then when everyone finished, including Krishna, Radharani took a mirror, looked in the mirror, and saw Krishna behind. And everyone just laughed and laughed and laughed. And Srila Rupa Goswami was in the pastime as Rupa Manjari. And Rupa Manjari laughed and laughed. And Rupa Goswami, he's sitting in Vrindavan on this planet, but his consciousness is withdrawn from external things completely. He's oblivious to the external situation. And he's sitting there, chanting, and suddenly he just bursts out laughing. So there was this old devotee coming, kind of bent over, walking stick, struggling, every step's an effort. And you get some of these elderly devotees you may have seen if you've been there, and they're literally bent over so that from like the waist to the head, they're horizontal to the ground. They're not vertical. So he was something like that. And he felt it was, people would look at him like, what are you? Sort of thing, kind of negative thoughts. So he was sensitive about it. And he's approaching Rupa Goswami, who's sitting a little higher and just very not far in front of him at all, a few meters. And Rupa Goswami, of course, he is not conscious of the external situation at all, unaware. But this old devotee doesn't know. And suddenly, Rupa Goswami, what does he do? Bursts out laughing while his eyes are looking at that devotee, but he's not seeing the devotee because his consciousness is withdrawn internally. But he's actually looking at the devotee. And the devotee thought, oh no. He thinks I'm just some stupid old fool. And he's laughing at me. Oh no. So this devotee felt so embarrassed and uncomfortable and just didn't know what to do. So he turned around, just on the spot he turned around, because he had seen Sanatan Goswami sitting just quite nearby, maybe 50 meters or 100 meters, not more, away. So he thought, I know. Well, he was thinking, why? Why is he laughing at me? What have I done? I haven't done anything. I'll go and ask Sanatan Goswami, what should I do? So he went. And now he's speaking with Sanatana Goswami. But now Srila Rupa Goswami, as soon as that devotee turned around and went, which he did sort of immediately within a few seconds, Srila Rupa Goswami found he just sort of came back. He was sort of thrown back into external consciousness, which was very unusual. He would usually sort of withdraw himself, but I was like, whoa, suddenly he's in external consciousness. And he was wondering, how could that happen? Never happened before. So he thought, no problem, I'll just chant again, and again I'll enter the pastimes. So he chanted again, but he didn't enter any pastime. And he thought, something's gone wrong. Maybe I offended someone, and I'm not even aware. So what to do? And he thought, I know. I will go and ask Sanatana Goswami. Because Sanatana Goswami was the expert negotiator, problem solver, and just, pacifier, the one who could bring peace out of any difficult situation. So Rupa Goswami, off he went. And now the elderly devotee had arrived there and was explaining to Sanatana Goswami what had happened with the laughing. And now comes Rupa Goswami and he explains to Sanatana Goswami what happened to him. And Sanatana Goswami immediately puts two and two together and understands the unknown offense. It was not even an offense, actually, but it was just that the elderly devotee felt distressed. That was all. So Sanatana Goswami, he then preached to them both and pacified them both so nicely. And let me read the last, it's maybe 10 verses or several verses, where everything is resolved and some conclusions are drawn. So, falling on the ground, that elderly Vaishnav offered his respects to Sri Rupa. To Sri Rupa he very humbly said, I committed an offense. O great soul, please forgive me. I did not understand how you were wrapped in meditation when I came. Standing before Srila Rupa Goswami, the Vaishnav prayed, please kindly forgive my offense. If you are merciful to me, then my heart can become peaceful. This I say to you. Hearing these words, Sri Rupa became very agitated at heart. Falling to the ground, he offered respectful obeisances to the elderly Vaishnav. Folding his hands, he said, I have no power to say how great was the offense I committed to you. Please kindly forgive my offense. Both devotees were very humble. Both were filled with the nectar of pure devotion. They both forgave each other. Then they both became peaceful. They both approached Srila Sanatana Goswami. For many moments, they were all plunged in the nectar of talking about Lord Krishna. Everyone heard of this incident, means like the Vaishnav community in Vrindavan. Everyone heard of this incident with Srila Rupa Goswami. Hearing of it, everyone became filled with wonder. O my brothers and sisters and mothers, please be very careful in dealing with the Vaishnavas. others. Give them even your breath, so they will forgive your offense. Be careful. Do not see a Vaishnav's faults. Always praise the Vaishnavs. The ancient, great devotees say, no one understands the ways of a Vaishnava. Through his dear devotees, Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya has taught this truth to us. Hold the devotees' lotus feet to your head and always dive in the nectar of pure devotional service. I remember some years ago, in fact, I think more than 20 actually, not at this time of the year, but somehow I got this inspiration to consider who I might have offended, and then to contact them and appeal for forgiveness. And a few of them wrote back. One was a very nice devotee, Romapad Maharaj. Yeah. And he wrote back and said, what are you talking about? And then I explained what I was talking about. And then he invited me to come to America. And I did. And it was really nice. And it kind of opened up a new chapter for me, you could say, in my life. So anyway, it's that time of the year, traditionally, that for considering what we've done, what we've not done, what we've done wrong, what we've done right, and particularly what we may have done wrong, and how to sort of recover these situations if necessary, or just how to cover these situations. So what I'll do now, this story is really one of my favorites. It's just such a fantastic story. What I'll do now, devotees, I will say a few things about forgiveness. And I did this actually just a few days ago in, would you believe, Reunion, which is not far from Mauritius. Yeah, but it's part of France, so it's another world. Yeah. Here's some things about forgiveness. First thing is, forgiveness is a choice. Then forgive, and you will be forgiven. And consider, how would you be doing now if you were only forgiven for your past sins and mistakes to the exact degree that you have forgiven others? The problem is that too often we want mercy for ourselves. And we have some expectation, you could say, but at least we want mercy for ourselves, but we want justice for others. Yes, a person may be attached to their resentment. They feel it's a type of weapon against those who have hurt them. Sometimes we don't forgive because we want to punish the other person for what they've done. But the reality is that in doing that, we're only punishing ourselves. Here's a good one. Try and catch this one. It is said that envy is like drinking poison and hoping the other person will die. Until you totally forgive, you will be in chains. Totally release them, and you'll be released. How's this? Nelson Mandela said, if you hate, you are giving your enemy your heart and your mind. To forgive is to set the prisoner free and then realize the prisoner was you. You may have heard the saying, I have seen the enemy, and it is me. Yeah. Okay. Some people guard their victimhood. Do you understand that? That they feel they've been victims and they are attached to that idea that I have been a victim. They become attached, and it kind of gives them a certain type of inspiration and satisfaction. People guard their victimhood. It is a story upon which they can justify their failures. If they lose that story of how they were victimized, if they lose that story, how can they justify their blame and anger? Anger makes them feel powerful. Ask them to forgive, and they fear that they will lose their power. But all anger and blame does is hide their pain they don't want to face. Forgiveness is the only door out of the prison of this pain. It is said that forgiveness is a quality for those who are advancing in spiritual knowledge. The greater the offense you must forgive, the greater the mercy you will get. It takes great spiritual strength to forgive an individual or organization that has deeply hurt you. So in a sense, you are actually fortunate if someone offends or hurts you, because it gives you the opportunity to make great spiritual advancement by forgiving. This is the last one, devotees. When you totally forgive someone, you must refuse to keep a record of their wrongs. And you refuse to keep a record of how right you were, the record used to vindicate yourself. Hare Krishna, what do you think of that? Anyway, Hare Krishna, think about it. It's worth thinking about, because, if we have offended devotees, in a sense, if we've offended anyone, but particularly if we've offended devotees, it's serious. It's not a small thing. And I'll close, except for it looks like a few questions, but otherwise I'll close by telling you one story of Lord Chaitanya with Mother Sachi. Mother Sachi is Mother Yashoda. She is actually Mother Yashoda. Yeah, she's not like a sort of someone who's trying to follow in the footsteps or practice the same types of consciousness or something like that. She's actually Mother Yashoda. So Mother Sachi offended in her mind Advaita Acharya because her son Vishvarup, Lord Chaitanya's older brother, he became, just as a boy, as a young boy, he became very attracted to Advaita Acharya and his preaching and the programs he had. He had programs every day. And so after school, he'd always go there, and he spent so much time there with Advaita Acharya and the devotees. So then later, when he was still young, like, I'm not exactly sure what age, but the impression I get, it's like maybe he was 20 or early 20s, something along those lines. He was really young. He left home and took sannyas and was never seen or heard of again. And it was quite abrupt. Just one day he wasn't there. And the message came back, he took sannyas. So Mother Sachi, sort of, just within her mind, she didn't talk about it, but she blamed Advaita Acharya. That, you influenced my son. He could have been a nice Grihasta devotee, attending the Lens temple. But, you worked him over so much that he took sannyas and he's just gone, completely gone. Just in her mind. So, Lord Chaitanya, a little later, Lord Chaitanya started having his nocturnal kirtans, all night kirtans at the house of Srivas Pandit. And Mother Sachi would come. And all the devotees would come. Every night was a big event of just mega kirtan. So one night, Advaita Acharya, in the middle of the kirtan, became so ecstatic, he just collapsed on the ground and became completely unconscious. Then Lord Chaitanya grabbed Mother Sachi and told her, offer your dandavats at his feet and place his feet on your head. Do it now. And she was hesitant because, she's an elderly lady. She's sort of grandmother's age, or, yeah. And he is also an elderly man. He's the leader of the Vaishnavas, highly respected devotee. And she's going to do this in front of, dozens of devotees at least. Lord Chaitanya told her, you do it now. If you don't do it, you'll fall down. Yeah. If you don't do it, you'll fall down from Krishna consciousness. And he's speaking to Mother Yashoda. Anyway, so do it now. And she did. She just threw herself down at and on the lotus feet of Advaita Acharya and grabbed his feet and just pressed them against her head and held them there for a very short while, some seconds. Suddenly Advaita Acharya came back to external consciousness and said, what happened? Something happened. Just now something happened to me. What was it? But now Mother Sachi had got up, so Advaita Acharya didn't know. But then Lord Chaitanya congratulated Mother Sachi and said, "You've done the right thing. You've done a wonderful thing. Well done." So there you go, devotees. Some thoughts for the end of the year. I hope I haven't made anyone depressed. Too much negativity. 100,000, 64 rounds, unknowing offense, and now this. Anyway, consider these points. And what is it? A couple of days from now is New Year's Eve, and try and think what you're going to try and do next year. Like, really, what could you actually do? And then really try and do it and pray to the Lord, because it's sort of, the New Year's Eve is something like a type of a samskar, in a sense. I mean, obviously it's not one of the classic samskars, but samskar, basically the word means impression, that there's a change in your life from one phase of your life to another, and you want to do something to make an impression. So as you go into the new phase, you're ready for it, like that, in that sense. So, New Year's Eve, you can say. I mean, you can do it any time, of course, but New Year's Eve's good enough time to think about whether you offended anyone, and if you feel you did, what could you do about it, which might be appropriate, and otherwise, how to develop your Krishna consciousness positively. Yeah. What could you do better? Okay, look, we got 5 questions here. I will do my best to answer them quickly. What are the consequences of, in particular, a mentally ill Vaishnava devotee who commits suicide? Also, how may we try to prevent it? Well, mentally ill, I think anyone who wants to commit suicide may well be mentally ill. I mean, particularly if you're a devotee and you know about these things, because it's sinful to kill a body, even an ant. Even Prabhupada, in Bhaktivedanta Manor, a devotee asked Prabhupada, when we walk on the grass, does it hurt the grass? In other words, could there be some reaction from walking on the grass? And Srila Prabhupada said yes. Therefore, you should only walk on the grass if you're walking for Krishna. Right, yes. So to kill a human body, like murder someone, that's really just extremely extreme. And to kill, because we are not our bodies. You are not your body any more than you're not the body of someone else who you might kill. So killing the body you're inhabiting is basically the same sort of karmic value, whatever you'd call it, as killing someone else's body. Yeah. And anyway, what will be the karma? They've already got some, if they're really mentally ill, they've already got some, pretty serious karma. But it won't help them and their situation in life if they commit suicide. I mean, at the very least, it won't help them. So what could we do to prevent it? Well, it depends how mentally ill they are. But the basic idea would be to preach to them and nicely, gently, from the heart, explain to them that if they do like that, then they're just going to have to go through whatever problems are disturbing them in the next life anyway. In other words, it's not an escape. But on top of all that is going to be some negativity coming from your having killed that body, your body. And hopefully, they will be able to understand that. Now, this here, there are schools like Sankhya, then I'm not sure, Kurikas. I've not heard of that, but people who study Sankhya, it sounds like, who consider the Vedas to be impure. Why is that? What should we use to tell them the authenticity of the godly scripture? Well, you know what? It's at least those of you who are initiated and you've been practicing, for some years, and you're fairly well read. Hopefully you've read most of Prabhupada's books, hopefully you've read the whole Bhagavad Gita a few times, you've read Srimad Bhagavatam at least once, and so on. Then, a very interesting book which specifically deals with this subject, not the Samkhya people so much, but just people. I mean, it's more or less aimed sort of with due respect to Arya Samaj people. Now, you may not know what that means at all, but it basically means people who think, they don't think the Vedas are impure, but they think only the four Vedas are pure. And even like the Upanishads and the immediate corollary literatures of the four Vedas, the Brahmanas, Aranyakas, and the Upanishads, they think they're not pure. What to speak of Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, Ramayana, the Puranas, Srimad Bhagavatam, they think they're just post-Vedic and not really to be taken seriously. And a book which is pretty complicated but very interesting, which is dealing with this matter specifically, is Tattva Sandarbha of Srila Jiva Goswami. My Lord, talk about establishing that the Puranas, and particularly Srimad Bhagavatam,